Okay. All right, folks. I think we're ready to get started. Yeah. Yeah, it should be good. And unmute it.
Mona here?
Yeah, Mona's there. We got some. Tevin is there. Cool. All right, folks. Let's see. Forgot where we got the thing. Started too far back. We're gonna go to starting with the DOM and using the DOM to using JavaScript to access the document object model. So give me a second because I want to set it up and.
Are you going to be ready some
JavaScript.
JavaScript. Yes, JavaScript.
Come on. All right, let me just bring up the right one. Okay. All right, yeah, because there's a lot of slides. All right, everybody can hear me okay then? Somebody nod or say yeah. All right, everybody say yeah. No one said anything. Cool. All right, so HTML and JavaScript. Like you see, we started this a couple weeks back, but what we're going to do is I'm going to just start from here where we talk about HTML and JavaScript.
Yeah, sorry, what's the code?
You want the code? All you guys are given the code for KFL. You have the code. Send the code in the chat.
Do I have the code?
Yes, everybody has the code. Hang on a second. Let's see if we can find the code for you guys. Code is no. Zachary can send it to you.
What?
Found it?
Oh, do you mean on the e-learning?
No, it's there. You join the meeting. Look at the meeting. Look for the meeting code.
Sorry, I'm just signing in. My computer takes its meeting. We'll continue, sir. Continue once I am.
Hang on. All right. So I'll just continue. We'll send you the code in the group chat. All right. Okay. All right. So let's get started with this. The HTML JavaScript, as you see at the bottom, we're going to talk about navigating these windows and all that sort of stuff. So there are multiple ways of actually accessing the document object model. That is parts of your HTML document, right? So, as I told you guys last time, I'm sure if you check back in the video, you see us talking about this. This is where we're talking about what HTML document look like in terms of the data structure. It's a tree-like data structure. Not a tree-like, it's a tree data structure.
Binary tree?
No, it's not a binary tree, right? Because each node does not have two children, right? They have multiple, right? Where each node, represents, like I said, the attributes that form the element itself, right? So you see the head element, it has more attributes inside of the head, or it has more children inside of the head than meta and title. You have a link element in there, right? What else goes inside head? Meta, title, link, something else, right? Script.
But if I thought, isn't the body have more children? It looks like the body has a lot more children.
Of course, the body will have more children because this is a big part of the document.
Right.
Right. So, like I said, that's why it's not binary, because you see it has more than two children. All right. So that's what we're talking about. In terms of arbitrarily large number of children, each node can have. So the idea behind it is that instead of just relying on HTML to access your document and to make changes to it, you're able to actually, let me put Zachary online so you could actually see somebody. It'll be nice to see a person, right? You'll be able to actually do more with your HTML document than just being restricted to what HTML, the language, provides you. Okay, so what we have is, why is this not working? Give me a second. Come on, people. All right, hang on. My clicker refuses to work today. All right, anyway, I guess I have to stand close to the laptop, which is annoying. Yeah, it's not working. All right. There we go. Right. Now, cast your minds back 2 weeks when we were here talking and you guys were fully awake and alert and excited about stuff you do in JavaScript. I remember when we were talking about using document write to do the hello world example. Everyone remembers that clearly as if it was yesterday, even though it was 2 weeks ago, right? So the idea behind the document write was that you simply put stuff, write text, a string, onto to the browser, okay? Now, the thing about it is that document write isn't an example of accessing the document object model, because all it really does is takes your HTML document and adds a string node to it, right? So we don't really want to use document write to modify or consider that as what you call document object model manipulation, DOM manipulation, because it really isn't. It doesn't manipulate nodes there anyway, right? It has a limitation that if you want to use it, you have to place the script that uses document write within the HTML document itself. It has to be embedded in the document. So you can't use a script source and put your JavaScript somewhere else to bring it in to your document. It has to be written right there in it. So all those things means that document write is not something that you want to count on to update your pages, because it just does not have the text. So
wait, but sir, isn't it just printing out something to the browser?
that's all it does. It just prints something out to the browser. It doesn't allow you to really access anything or anything like that. It just prints it to the browser.
Tevin wants to know what's the DOM. What's DOM?
DOM stands for Document Object Model, right? So that's what it means, Document Object Model, which is the underlying data structure of an HTML document. Okay, so that's what DOM means. All right, so let's see. So that was just a question that you'd asked. Cool. All right.
Yeah, so my computer taking a real long time. You can just tell me to go ahead.
All right, hang on. Let me give you guys a code. Let me see if we can dig it up quickly because.
Just hit escape. Just hit escape.
Escape.
This is a simple screen.
Yeah.
Okay. 300.
300-735-947. 300-735-947. Okay. Right. So where were we? Yeah. Got a question?
Can you repeat?
Hang on a second. Let me turn the volume so I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead. No, no question.
Can you repeat the codes? Or?
The code? All right. What was it again? 300.
300-735.
735.
I sent it.
All right. Yeah. Zach sent it. 30.
In the group chat.
Yeah. So it's in the group chat. Okay. All right. So now what we're looking at is a way to actually access our document object model, our DOM, right? So we can do great things with it. So you have a bunch of tools, and that's really what it is. You know, functions, methods, whatever you want to call them. That's available. That's been made available through JavaScript. JavaScript is the implementing language that allows you to access the API that exposes the data structure, which is your document object model. So you guys you haven't done algorithms yet, but you all did data types and all that sort of stuff, didn't you?
Well, in what sense? At KFL or in general?
In general, at KFL, didn't you do basic software development and that sort of thing?
So,
All right.
You know, like inks.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Look at it this way. So what you've done, what we're discussing here is the fact that your HTML document that you see in your browser has an underlying data structure, which is a tree, right? And it has nodes in the trees. And there's certain things you could, certain operations that you can perform on these. You can add, edit, delete nodes. You can add new nodes, and the addition of nodes have different representations on your browser, right? So when you add and manipulate the behaviors on that data structure, it visually changes the representation of your page, right? Now, to manipulate that data structure, that tree-like data structure, you have the choice of actually going and physically writing code that will manipulate each one of those nodes specifically, Well, obviously you don't want to do that. So what the designers did, the people who created JavaScript, created what you call an application programming interface, which we all know what that is, an API. And they wrote the API using JavaScript. So JavaScript, when you see JavaScript and the manipulations that we did, they basically used JavaScript to create an interface to the underlying data structure, right? So that we can then use that programming language to manipulate our HTML document. Everybody with me so far? Okay. So what we're talking about here, yes, they're almost like libraries. Exactly. You could say they're libraries because that's essentially what they are. So they've created a bunch of tools, tools, methods, and that sort of stuff that would allow you to access, change, create, navigate all aspects of this underlying data structure. Okay, so one of the basic building blocks of any kind of manipulation that you will do on your document object model, right, is to be able to grab the nodes and attributes of the elements in your page. Okay, one of the basic ones is document.getElements by tag name. Now remember, JavaScript is case sensitive, right? So if you're spelling this, you have to make sure you spell it right. You see it's like camel case. First letter is lowercase, and then it's camel case by word, right? So get elements by tag name, okay? And you see as a parameter is a string, which is the name of the tag or the name of the element. So if you wanted to get all paragraph elements from your HTML document, you will say document.getElements by tag name P. And you put P in quotes.
So it's not. I don't put the actual string in I just put the tag.
You put the tag name, right?
So I have to put P in quotes, or I have to say
P in quotes because P is a string.
Side, P.
No, it's not an angle bracket. It's nothing like that. You're just accessing. Remember, it's it's programmatic interfacing now. So you're not passing a parameter. The parameter is not the tag name, not the actual element itself that you put in the angle bracket. Yeah, I got to figure out a way of actually writing these things on the screen so everybody can see. Right? Oh, wait a minute. No, I don't have it. It's not touchscreen either. Okay. So what was I saying? So yes, your tag name would be P, like it was being asked. It's not in the angle brackets. It's just P. So P in quotes, right? And what that will do is return a list of all P elements in your document. Okay. Now it will return it as an array, or what you call JavaScript would call it a list or collection, right? But it's it's an iterable data structure, which is an array, as we said, and it will give you the list of all of them, and it's zero index. So when you get this and you see that the object document, and that's the object there, object is document, and getElements is a method that allows you to access tag names, that access nodes in your document object model by the tag name, right? Another question. So why would you want to collect the tags? Well, that's what we're going to get to, because what you want to do is you're navigating. This is when you want to do manipulation. All that stuff that you see with like jQuery, you guys know your jQuery, Angular, and all that sort of stuff. All those things navigate the document object model using these methods, right? So all the cool effects that you'll see, and all the nice user-friendly behaviors that you experience on pages like Facebook, Snapchat, and so on that have these kind of interfaces, they use these methods to gather the elements and change their appearance, add and remove them. Because if you could gather all the paragraphs, you may want to gather all the paragraphs, and then say, for example, highlight the first, second, and the last, or you want to probably gather all the paragraphs and do a search by paragraph, or there are any number of reasons that you want to be able to collect elements by the tag name.
So let's say there are multiple paragraphs, P1, P2, and P3.
Yeah.
So let's say that's 5 paragraphs.
Yeah,
sure. Say I only want the first 3 paragraphs.
Yep.
I'll have to say P1, comma, P2, comma, P3.
Well, you only get P. Remember, you're getting them by tag name. So you can't get P1, P2, P3. You'll have to get all of them, and then just access. Say there are 5 P five paragraph elements. Then if you want 3 of them, the first 3, it's returned as an array. So you'll then access them by P square bracket 0. You're not accessing an array. P0, P1, and P2.
Oh, it returns it as an array.
It returns it as an array. So you'll
Okay.
so you just access the paragraph that you want by the index.
That's where I use the document get element by ID.
Correct. Now, so in terms of document get element by ID, remember what we said about ID. An ID has to be unique in the document, right? The value has to be unique in the document. So you realize that this method does not have a plural form of element. It's just element, because it's only going to retrieve one element. It's not going to retrieve an array. So if you have multiple IDs with the same value in your document, this will only retrieve one of them, right? Whether it retrieves the first one or the last one or just arbitrarily picks one, we don't know, right? You'll have to look at the behavior of the thing and find out, because the specification does not indicate if a person incorrectly specifies an incorrect number of IDs in the document, what the behavior is to be, since there's only to be one ID in your document of the specific value. So what this would do is just retrieve one element with that matching ID. Okay, whatever it is. Once you remember, ID is a global attribute, so all elements in the document could have an ID, which means you could theoretically retrieve any aspect or any node or any element in your document using the ID. So these are the 2 fundamental tools that allow you to get nodes and attributes, right? These methods, right? So now, I mentioned this the week before. The thing to remember here is that these methods do not work until the document is fully loaded, right? So everything has to be up on the page and fully ready, and the document has to be in like a ready state so you could access the elements and tags, and that's the elements in your document, okay? So to know when the document is ready to be manipulated, you have to watch the onload event. Right now, the onload event is another one of those global events that you could that's available to you, or not global event. It's an event that's available to you to check. That's available to or can be triggered on the body of the document. So the body tag, you could actually have an onload event there, and in that onload event, you can actually put a JavaScript. You can put JavaScript functions that will actually start manipulating the HTML page once it is fully loaded. Okay? So there are other methods that will allow you to actually change to check the state of your document. There's an attribute called ready state change. Ready state change, I think it is. And it has different values depending on the state that the document is in. So when it's loading, when it's waiting, or when it's rendering and that sort of stuff, you can actually test the state of the document itself to find out how far it is in terms of being available for manipulation, right? And when I can't remember if the value is 4 or not, I can't remember the actual ready state change value. At a certain value, then the document is available and ready for manipulation, right? So you have to make sure that you are going to be manipulating the document after it's fully loaded. If you write your code and try to do manipulations before it's finished, it won't work, right? And you'll be wondering why. So, like you see here, you could access elements, as I said, as an array. You see we have get elements by tag name. And you asked if you want, and when you asked you what's one of the first 1, 2, or 3 elements, right, Zach? You see here that you don't have to necessarily retrieve the entire array, like I was telling you. Right, because it is an index, it returns an array. You could actually specify, right, that you only want the first element.
Right. That's the you put in square bracket.
Yeah, by putting in square bracket.
So, but could I access multiple elements the same way by having 0, 1?
I never tried that, so I won't swear that you can or cannot, but I never tried it. But I think what you could do is, I've seen this before. Well, you can nest it and that sort of thing, right?
No, that was nested.
Now you see the second example, right? Look there. You wanted to get multiple elements, right? But this shows you the second example, get elements by tag name, and you get the third list item element, because that's li2. You see the second example in one, and then you see it's now, and then after that it's joining that, concatenating it, because that's what the dot operator is. It's concatenating it, treating it as a string, and it's getting the first anchor tag element.
That's going to return as a string.
Yes.
So
right, this one is because it's getting. Hang on. No, these things return objects.
Okay,
right.
So what's the difference between a full stop and a semicolon?
The semicolon is a statement terminator.
Right.
The full stop is a concatenator.
So
right. So to reach the first hyperlink inside the third. Oh, right. Sorry. See the dot operator there?
Mm-hmm.
No, sorry. I'm mixing up my languages. Beg your pardon. The plus is a concatenator in JavaScript. The dot is a concatenator in PHP. Beg your pardon, people. I got a PHP class later on this evening. So what this is doing, right, is accessing, like it says, to reach the first hyperlink inside the third list item. So this is navigating the tree, navigating the document tree.
So okay. So how does it know that? How does it know How does it know that A isn't some other tag? And how does it know to get it from the list? As in, get elements by tag name A. How does it know to access? How does it know that A is in the list? Or am I thinking too much?
No. You see the first one, document. I get elements by tag name. li2.
Yeah.
Right. So that's getting the third list item.
Right.
So that returned the list item. So that got the third list item as an object. And then dot. So now the third list item is itself a document object.
Right.
Which now has a method available to it called get elements by tag name.
Okay.
So now it has the third list item as a document object. And now it's taking that one and using get elements by tag name and searching inside that little document fragment for an anchor tag, for the first anchor tag.
Okay, is that what the full stop is used for?
The full stop is the method accessor is the one. So the dot operator is the one that you use to access attributes and methods in JavaScript.
Right. So
you know, go back and check object-oriented JavaScript, please. So did we do that? No, we didn't. Go ahead.
If I were to just have a semicolon, then it wouldn't be searching for the.
No, if you had a semicolon there, it would just return the list, the third list item.
Right.
And then that get elements by tag name would be an incomplete statement.
Right. So the full stop is essentially saying.
Yeah, good. The full stop, right. So what happens if it doesn't find an A? It will tell you undefined.
So sorry, what the full stop is essentially saying is the functions after this until a semicolon are going to be operated on the return value.
On the return value of the previous. Yeah.
Okay.
So just see this as y'all doing object-oriented programming. So it's like I said, it's an object. That's why it's called a document object model, right? So the document that get elements by tag name li2, that returns an object.
Right.
Right? That also has the same methods as the main document, right? So it has to get elements by tag name. So you return the object that just happens to be a document fragment, which is your list item. You call the method get elements by tag name on it, and it returns and looks for an anchor tag. If it doesn't find the anchor tag, if the anchor tag exists, that target link will actually have a value of undefined, right? If my memory serves me correctly. If it does have an anchor tag, it will return the anchor tag as another object for you to manipulate. Okay? Remember, these methods are returning objects, document objects, right? They aren't returning. So, and they're returning document objects in a way that you can navigate them using the array. So you can see P0, as you see the P0 there. It's the way it's structured. You could iterate. You can navigate these objects either using arrays or using the dot operator. Okay, so you have multiple ways of navigating the document. Navigating the document and document objects. And this one shows you the last element using the length property of the array. So again, list elements. So if you created if you did document get elements by tag name li to get all the list elements list items in your document, then to access the last one, you could treat it like an array, right? And just pick up the last one from the array by getting the length minus 1, right? Because list elements, these objects have attributes like list length and so on. That's available to you. Okay? Right. Like I said, we can mix and match access methods to cut down the looping that you have to go through. But doing that can be quite cumbersome, tedious, so you'll probably try to avoid doing that. We have ways of making it easier for you to traverse the HTML document, right? Because we're traversing them. I'll give you an example, a concrete case point. You know, when you're downloading something or you have to upload something, and you click on the button and then you see the little GIF, little spinning wheel, show you that, right. That is a case in point of you doing document object manipulation with JavaScript. I mean, you can do it with CSS too, but you can also do it with JavaScript, where once the person clicks the button, right, you actually can rewrite the node, rewrite the area right next to where the button was clicked to change it to load a GIF, right? You can do that. I mean, there's simple ways of doing it, but you can do it using JavaScript, right? Anyway, so since we're talking about tree structure, and the tree structure is similar to, you know, generational trees, family trees, because you have a parent and you have children, right? So the concept of children, parents, and siblings is available that allow you to then navigate your document object model, your tree data structure, using the concepts of a parental hierarchy, right? So that way you don't have to necessarily go and use length, you know, element.length -1 or iterate using arrays. You can use something more natural for you to access it, right? So here's our example HTML that we're going to use to discuss the other things that are to discuss this whole idea of siblings and parents and that sort of stuff, right? And you see, we were talking about it when we were talking about li2, right? So li2 is the one that you have there, which is the third list item element that has the anchor tag in it, right? And you see we have a set of paragraphs and so on. So we have a little working document that we can use. So keep that in mind as we talk about some of the things that we're going to look at later on, right? So as we know, all animals are children of bodies. We have the H1, H2, and P are siblings. Here, H1, P, H2, UL. Ready to go? Find something where to break this. You can see that they're siblings. They're all at the same level, right?
H1, H2,
H1, P, H2, UL. All right. So all the paragraphs and all the headings and the UL elements, they are all siblings. The LA elements are children of the UL element, right? And they are siblings of each other. Okay? Now you see the link is the child of the third LI element. So you see here, the third LI element, and it has a child, which is the anchor tag. Now text inside of paragraphs, headings, list items, and so on are also nodes. They're also text nodes, right? And so they're children, right? So all this text themselves are text nodes. Those are also children. They're children of those elements. Okay? So now we understand generally, we could go a little deeper. You see now, every node has values that are available, so you could actually determine what type of node that you're actually accessing in your document, right? There are 12 types in all, but we aren't really concerned with all 12. Basically, here, yes, is there a question? No? Okay. All right. Element, right? Element is whether it's a P tag, H tag, whatever. The attributes, whether it's an attribute that you're retrieving. Is it a text node? Is it a comment, or is it the document itself? Right?
So I would have to learn these node values.
Well, I'd say this is not the most intuitive way of accessing it, right? But it's a method if you want, because if you want to check, if you're navigating a document blindly, right, you don't necessarily know the structure of the document. You know, you're web crawling or something like that, and you want your thing to generically find certain things, then you can use this level of abstraction. But as you can tell, it's not a natural way of doing it, right? Fortunately for you, you don't have to rely on node type or node name, but these are things that are available to you for navigation. So you can check to see if you're if you're navigating your elements. If you're an element, then let's go down, see if it's what type of element it is. Node that you see, using node name. Now who is that? That's me. Right, node name. You can see what. What's that squeaking? All right. So you have. What's that?
I don't know. So
No. Okay. Right. Let's move on. Sorry. Go back. Okay. So the node name is the node name can be either uppercase or lowercase depending on the browser. All right. So remembering that JavaScript is case sensitive. If you want to check to see what type of node, if you're on a node and you want to see what the name of the node is, and you want to check and say, okay, I want all list items and all that sort of stuff in my node to process, you have to convert it to lowercase. So that is browser independent. Okay, so you have yourself a simple method called to lowercase or to uppercase that will allow you to be sure. So when you're doing your test, it's either uppercase or lowercase. Okay. All right. Hold that. That's squeaking. Somebody got to turn off their.
someone's audio is on.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Right. And then you can actually access the value as well. So you don't have to. You aren't just restricted to the type. So you could get the type, the name, and the value that's actually stored in the for that node, right? So text nodes, it can be read as set, so you could do whatever you want. You can manipulate. You could do a lot of manipulation using just this idea of the node type, node name, and node value.
So let's say the element at index 0. Let's say we call the elements by tag name, and we have our array. And index 0 is text that says 3 things all. What you're doing, you can now here say first child node value and assign it a new value.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
And change it from greetings all to hello world and all that.
And it could be first child, second child, third child.
No, we don't have first, second child, third child. We just have the first child. I think we have first child, last child. We'll see later on. You only have first child, last child, sibling. You'll see.
Okay.
All right. So we'll show you how you can navigate. Okay. So this is where we're talking about, because this is where he was asking about whether we have first child, last child, second child, third child. What you have here is a property called child nodes, right? So child nodes is a list of all children that are available that are part of the element. Okay, it does not go down to deeper levels. So if we wanted to do child nodes of body, let's see if we scoot back up here to our HTML document. Here. Scooting, right? Child nodes of the body tag will just be the H1P, H2 UL, and the two remaining paragraph elements, right? The child nodes will not get the children of the UL element, so will not pick up the ally nodes. It's just the immediate children. Child nodes for body. If you wanted the child nodes of the body tag, the children of the body tag. Basically, it would just return the children. It won't return grandchildren.
So it'd be H1P, H2, UL, P, and P.
P and P.
Okay.
All right. So let's go forward. Right. So it's a list of all, like I said, first level. You see the word first level, child nodes of the element. Does not cascade to deeper levels. You can access the child element of the current element via the array counter, because child nodes is an array, right?
That too returns.
Yes, right? And because it returns an array, then all you want to do, if you want to access children within it, you then access it using, the index.
By tag name.
No, you don't get just index value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh.
Right? So yeah. Okay? So Even though child nodes is available, again, these are the idea is you have multiple layers of abstraction. If you do not, and the reason that is that if you do not know what the document looks like, right? You're not familiar with the structure, you're trying to make your solution as general as possible, then you will not have, you will use things like node type, node name, node value, child nodes, and iterate through it using an array, that sort of stuff. Because it's kind of general that way, right? If you're more familiar with the data structure, then you can be more specific in specifying whether you want the first child or the last child, or any other kind of sibling. So here's the easiest method. Instead of saying child node 0, right? You could just use first child. First child is an attribute that's available on the document. And then you can also get last child, which is, as you see, to access it using the array method for last child, there'll be child nodes, and then you got to get the element.childNodes.length -1, just to get the last child. But that's already baked into the API as attributes. So you can just get the first and last child without having to go through that child. Right? You can also check if a node has any children by just checking to see the hash child nodes method. The hash child nodes method returns a Boolean value that tests whether it's true or if they have true or not. So you don't have, because if you did, if you went to an element and said, give me child node 0, you'll get undefined, right? Which is going to be annoying because then you got to code for the undefined return value that you have. Whereas it's just easy to say if element has child nodes, or right, and then do this, right? Okay, and then you can also check to see how many children it has by checking the size of the array, because the array tells you how many children it has. Okay, now you see I have my nice little Doberman there telling you to be aware, right? When we first did up these slides, Microsoft Internet Explorer was still actually a thing, right? What you have to be aware of is that in terms of what are considered children, children are any node. Text nodes are children, but text nodes also contain line breaks, and line breaks are considered as children, right? So when your browser, Mozilla with Firefox, Chrome, I believe Opera, they all return the text nodes, and I believe Edge actually does it. Returns the line breaks as children. So when you say first child, right, for an element, you expect to get the text because you see the text inside the element, and you figure that you're going to get the text. You're not going to get the text. You're going to get a line break.
But so if I didn't use the line break, let's say just a paragraph and you started writing, it would still return text.
Yeah, you'll get text. So you got to be careful.
They had I think it was BR. Is it BR?
Well, BR is an element. So BR will return line break. BR is an element.
Okay. So, but I'm trying to remember our line break.
No. So the line break is the actual physical line break in the text. In the HTML document. So right. So in the HTML document, as you type it up, if you have like I show you here, let's go back. See, we go back again to. It's easier to just go back. Let's go back to the HTML document and look at it. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, let's take a look at the UL element, and you'll see we have UL and then we have LI. Right. So you'll say you want the first list item. So you'll go get, let's just say you say you get element by ID events list. Right? So that route, I used to store that inside of a thing called UL element. So you create a variable called UL element and say UL element equals document dot get element by ID events list. That returns the UL document fragment to you as an object. You then say, okay, I want my list 1. So you then say, being as clever you are, you know that you have the first child attribute there. You'll go UL element dot first child, right? And you say li item equals UL element dot first child, but you will not get the li element.
I'll get the line break.
You'll get the line break. You understand? So you see how that works, right? That's why you say so. Text node will be there as a line break, and that will be the first child. So you got to be careful of that, and that's where the node type comes in, right? So if you have yourself a first child. If you do first child and first child is a text node, but you know you don't want a text node, you'll then have to go and get the sibling and see if it's the element that you're looking for. Okay. And you got to remember, because what you're ultimately talking about here is like dynamic manipulation of an HTML document using JavaScript, right? So we can arbitrarily generate code on the fly for your HTML document. So as the document evolves through our dynamic manipulation using JavaScript, we won't necessarily know comfortably what the structure of what the structure of the string is that we have added, right? You may or may not know, and that sort of thing. So you'll have to do your due diligence when you're creating a document to make sure that you're getting what you expect.
So, sir, so why do the new versions of various browsers return?
I think that's the standard. That's why the text node, the line breaks apart of it, right? I appreciate why Microsoft Internet Explorer did not return line breaks because it's unintuitive, right? A person seeing the document will not look at it and say, "Oh, there's a line break there," because the programmer isn't seeing one, isn't thinking about it. When it says first child, they expect to get the first element, not a line break that's hidden. So it's not intuitive that way, but standard is not defined that way from what I gather. Okay, so we talk about getting from parents to children. You can get from children to parents. You have the parent node, just like you have child node, parent node property. So you could actually use the parent node to get the from parent to grandparent to great grandparent right up. So you can go from the child, you can go from arbitrarily nested down in the document right up to the root document if you want. Okay, and this one basically shows you how to get from some element and navigate up to the document body, which is the root parent, not a root node. Okay. Okay. So
why is not equal to dynamic?
Right. So while the parent class name is not dynamic, so it says looping using parent nodes to find a class name called dynamic. Right. So this is what it's starting somewhere. It's starting from somewhere some arbitrary position in your HTML document, right? And it's trying to go up to find a parent whose class is dynamic. This is part of the dynamic class. So what it's doing is basically keep looking, either stop when I find the class dynamic or stop when if I get to the document body. Okay.
Oh.
Now, in terms of siblings, this is not how we can navigate between siblings, right? So instead of using the child nodes and 0, 1, 2, 3 to n, right? You have the idea of if you have retrieved a node, you can get its sibling, either its previous or next, right? Now, remember that previous and next siblings are not, remember we talked about the example just now where we have the UL and the LI elements, right? Those siblings are text nodes because they're line breaks, okay? So you gotta remember, so when you do previous and next siblings, again, you gotta do the sanity check to make sure that you're retrieving an element and not a text node, unless you really want the text node, right? And there's the word, and there's your type, the undefined type. And if the current object is the last child of the parent element, the next sibling is actually right, will be undefined. Okay, so you gotta always test. You gotta test, right? There are no shortcut properties for first and last siblings.
I thought you just said you could just do first.
First child, last child from the parent. So for a parent, you can get first child and last child. But at the sibling level, you can't get first sibling, last sibling. So there's just previous and next. Okay? Right. All right, so there's, again, we have some example HTML, right? So you can change, this is one we're talking about changing attributes, right? So you have a number of attributes here. You have the href attribute, you have the alt attribute, source, title, and so on. Now, we talk about, so we access nodes, and now we talk about how you can access attributes, right? So if you want to change an attribute, you have the older method where you can just take the object property, because these things, in terms of JavaScript, I mean, JavaScript is so tightly coupled to HTML, you tend to think of it as one and the same, right? But here we have an example of where we want to actually change the attribute values for this HTML document. So the HTML document, the original values, you see we have the image, the alt, the source, and the title, right? Alt, the image, full image, the title, full title. We can actually change this, right, by getting the element by ID, which is the nav, right? We have it here, div ID, see this there, nav. Do get element by ID, document.get element by ID, nav, right? And now we want the image. And you see, we use the dot operator now to get the element by tag name for the image, and get the first image element that's
in the nav list.
that is in the nav, that's part of the nav element. The nav that has an ID. Sorry. Right? Right? So then we store that in a variable called main image, right? And we can just access the attributes as object properties. Let's see, this dot and their properties, right? Simple, okay. Straightforward. And so we can either read them or we can set them. In this case, we set them by changing them. You see, dynamic logo, we change the alt text, and we change the title to go back home, right? And now we effectively just change all of that simply that way, right? Simple way of doing that, accessing the document and changing the attributes. Now, we have another way of doing it. The DOM specification actually provides two methods, right? So the API, you can actually use the method get attribute and set attribute, which does the same thing. So get just retrieves it for display or manipulation, set actually changes the value, right? And so here's the same example, right? We now see we create a variable called first link that gets the first anchor element in the document.
In document A, in
yeah.
object A or whatever.
Right. So first link, we store it as a variable called first link. Now, first link, because it's a document object, right? It has the method get attribute available to it, and you specify the attribute that you want as href.
In all cases, or
no. This is an attribute that's part because the anchor tag. Let's go back. As you can see here, and here the anchor tag has an attribute called href.
Okay.
So when we got element by get, we did get elements by tag name A0. You see we have a href, and you see we have the attribute, right? So that's what we're doing here. Sorry. So it gets the first link, it gets the href attribute, right? And we check to see this is a matter of retrieval, get attribute, we're retrieving it, and checking to see if it's equal to search HTML. If it is, then we can change the value. So we see a simple example of getting a setting here. And similarly, you see the setting now here. Instead of treating the attributes as object properties, yeah, instead of treating them as object properties, we're actually now using the get and set attribute methods to modify them. All right. So, what else we have here? Yes, and everybody's hearing you're late. Sorry. All right. So now, all attributes defined in HTML specifications can be accessed. So any attribute that's available on any element, you can access using get attribute. However, right, not all are writable. So some are read only for security reasons, but most of them you can set and get. Okay. And then, yeah, so attributes, as you can see, you could save, you can create, not create, but the attributes, you can just store values of variable values on that. Right, now, just in terms of attributes, attribute names, there are two that come readily to mind, right? For is a reserved word in JavaScript, right? And for is also an attribute in HTML, right? So you obviously have a conflict if you're having a reserved word in the language and you're using that language to access another language. So
Well, sir, well, can you just do JavaScript by yourself?
Remember, we're using JavaScript to access the HTML document.
Oh, right.
Right? So what the API provides you with, right, is a property name called HTML4 and not just for.
Okay.
Right? That's what the API provides you with. Right? So if you want to change the property, if you want to get the attribute for, you use HTML4. Right? The same thing for class. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Class attribute is a JavaScript reserved word as well. So you can't use class. You can't go set attribute class, right? Because even though it's HTML, but it's a JavaScript reserved word. So it will give you an error. So if you want to change the attribute class, an HTML attribute class, you got to use the attribute class name instead. Okay. So you can change the structure of the document, so you don't have to change just elements. You could create entire new ones and replace and remove old ones as well. You can do all sorts of stuff. So you can now actually not just take existing elements, because what we're talking about is navigating so far, right? We were just navigating and being able to go from parent to child to grandchildren. We were talking about going across using siblings, previous and next siblings. So we saw how we can move up and down. We could go from top to bottom, bottom to top, left to right, right to left. So we know how to navigate the document. Now we're at a point where we're saying, okay, and we saw how we could set and get and set attributes, right? But we haven't talked about how we could actually create things yet, right? We were basically querying and navigating the document structure. True? So part of the beauty of, again, of the document object model is that we're not limited to just querying and manipulating the object structure, querying and navigating the object structure. We can actually add to it. You remember we talked about document write as only being capable of adding a string to the HTML document and only under limited conditions. Well, the full-on DOM allows you to do more than that. You can actually you can create elements, you can create text nodes, you can append children, everything that you can navigate and do, you can actually create. So you can actually, instead of sitting down and writing out HTML using text, you could theoretically, programmatically create a document out of that from whole cloth using just the API, right? So you can actually use JavaScript to write an HTML document. And I'm not talking about document and then document write HTML document. I'm talking about actually creating the nodes and everything for you. So you can actually programmatically create the data structure, right? As you see here, we have create element, we have create text node, append child to the node, and that sort of thing. These are just the basic ones, right? Okay, so like element manipulation, you can clone a node, right? Cloning a node basically means making a copy of the node. The copy of the node only if the bool value, the bool parameter you see there, is true. The clone includes the clones of all the child nodes and attributes, right? I think if it isn't true, then it will just copy the element.
So, sir, you don't have to go back to the earlier example. You know how in the earlier example how you had the H1s, the L1, and the lists, right?
Yeah.
And so the UL had lists.
LA things, yeah.
So if I were to say new node is equal to node.clone node UL. No, it says it takes in boot.
New node would be equal to ul.clone node.
It would be ul.clone node, and then I have to say
not ul. It will be. I gotta remind me. I gotta see if we can fix this. The example that you're talking about, node in this case, if you want to know an example of how to use clone node, right? We'll have to let's say ul node is equal to get elements by tag name, li. Oh no, get elements by tag name ul square bracket 0.
Okay. So
that would give us the ul node.
The ul node.
Right, which is our ul element, and that would give us that document fragment, which is the unordered list. Right. Okay. So now we have that unordered list. Right. So if we now say we will now have to say ul node, which is the variable that we just created. Let me see if I can write this down. The reflection of this board. Yes, you don't see it, right? So, and there's nowhere to write. Anyway, so let's see if you can follow me. Let's do it again. Close your eyes and imagine as I speak JavaScript code into the editor. So var ul node, right? So we created a variable called ul node equals document.get elements by tag name, open brackets ul, close brackets, square brackets 0. So that gives us the ul node, which is the first ul element in that document.
Right.
Okay, so we have that as a big chunk document object. So if we want to clone it, using this statement that we have here, new node equals new node clone, we would say new node is equal to ul node dot clone node, right? And that will make a copy of the ul.
But only of the first element.
Yeah, the ul. So if we said true, it would give us a copy of ul and all of its children, all of its attributes.
Okay, all the children. I thought when we
ul would give us li, it gives us the li's.
I know it gives the LIs,
Yeah.
but I thought the get tagged by get.
Elements by tag name.
I thought since you said 0,
It only gets-
0,
It will only get the first.
then we get the first LI.
It will get the first ul. We're getting elements by tag name ul.
Oh, okay.
So I grabbed the whole ul. If you want to do the li thing, li0 only gives the li1. Right. So if you wanted to talk about, that was the ul example that we were trying to talk through just now. If you wanted to do the li example, then we just do li0 and it would just give us the first list item that had the value of list 1 in it. And then if you want to clone that, it would just create a copy of the li with the value, right, in new node, right? But that wouldn't actually spit it out. It would not appear on the browser. It doesn't appear. It just creates a variable. It just creates this object inside the program.
It doesn't return anything.
So right, it doesn't return anything to the browser, right? It just creates a copy of it. Okay. Now, if you want to actually add stuff so that it appears on the browser, that's where you have your insert before comes in, right? So this one you can insert before. What's the other one you have? There's another one in there. Anyway, let's go. You don't have insert after, right? But insert before, right, allows you to insert and add an element to the document tree, right? So if we cloned list item 1, for argument's sake, let's say we cloned list item 1, right, by doing our get elements by tag name li0, and we did our new node is equal to list item 1 clone. All right, so we now have new node as a copy of list item 1.
Right, of the first list.
Of the first list, I guess. Then we can add that, right, to our existing list items by saying insert before, right, new node, and the old node will be the list item that we just created, the list item node that we grabbed.
The old node, so the new node is the one that we just created.
Right, from the clone, and the old node would be the one that we retrieved using the get elements by tag name, li0,
okay.
right? And that would insert it before, and so your new thing, an ordered list would be ul, and it will have 2 list items with list 1 in them.
Okay, right, with the list 1 element.
Yeah, sure, 2 list 1 elements, right? So that's inserted it in before, right? And if you want to insert stuff after, then all you got to do is determine which your before is, and you'll be able to do that. And we can also remove the node. So if we wanted to then remove the list item, remove the last list item, right? Said there were 4 of them. I can't remember what they were, right? You could then say old node equals document.get elements by tag name li, and then square bracket 4. Say there are 5 elements. You want the last one, so 4, and we'll get the last one, and then we can say we'll actually have to get our ul element. It's more complicated than. Yes, so forgive me as I write on the whiteboard that you guys may or may not see.
So you could just aim the camera.
I know, but the reflection still isn't very good. Yes, the glare is very strong, and it's very far away, so you can't really see anyway. Right? So I would say var, I can see that, well known, right? Get document dot get elements by tag name. I already ran out of space. Right? UL
Square bracket 0.
0. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you want the old node. Since we have the UL node, we could get the we could do the UL node. We don't want to go through that whole first child thing because we know the first child is going to return a text.
Yeah,
or right. So we say UL node dot, right? Not dot. Yeah. UL node dot get elements. We do the same thing. By tag name. Right? So we get the first one. Li 0.
The first list.
Right, it gets the first list item.
Okay.
Right? And now we have our
So
want to remove the child node.
Say we're doing something basically stored information for like a file or a database. And you wanted to say like it was an ID. And it was always kept in the first place.
First.
It's the first
The first.
element of the list
yeah.
or whatever.
Wow.
You can get it using not there.
Well, yeah, but it'd probably be easier ways of sending your documents so you can just get the value.
Oh,
Right? So node remove child. So we do UL node dot remove child. Right?
Wait, so I would have to declare, I would have to give the node a name before I slap it. Okay.
Nah, you don't have to. I could have done UL node remove child. Get
That?
get elements by tagging. Blah, blah, blah.
That's on it.
Right, yeah, exactly. All right, so you all can see that? I can't see that. I'm looking at it on my screen. Anyway, we got to figure out a way to get in some newer technology. Y'all could make a request that you want one of those things where the teachers could talk on the screen and write on the screen and all that.
Oh.
A touch screen presentation so the person could actually annotate as they present. The whiteboard does, but they can't see the
Remember,
whiteboard.
The white, it's not as though it's not, remember the white Zoom.
Sir,
Yes.
Zoom
the desk has wheels. You could push it forward if you wanted to.
Yeah, it will get.
but
It will
the cord
be
is
disconnected.
only a
Yeah,
certain.
Yeah, it'll be disconnected from the from all the power, the cabling, and all that sort of stuff. So the desk can't really move, the desk can't really move that far either. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, we'll figure out something. Yeah. Actually, you need there's a next step. We didn't talk about that now. Let's move on. I'm gonna flip slide 58, and there are like 36 more of those suckers to go. All right. So let's move on. Okay. So in terms of all of that, when we were talking about that, the example just now, how to solve all this, node this, node that, create.
Why does I start?
Right? How we had, which one? Give me a second.
Check under the papers.
Don't worry about it. Yeah. Okay, so as I was saying, you see how we had to do this UL node get elements thing, do this and all that sort of stuff just to create or remove these elements? Well, Microsoft actually did something good for once. I'm not, yeah, they did something good. They created the inner HTML property. See, they call it, when I created these notes, it was non-standard. It was non-standard, but it's become standard part of it. So inner HTML is supported by all browsers, right? And basically, you don't have to go through this pain and suffering of create node, remove node, and all that sort of stuff. All you do is assign the document snippet that you want to inner HTML, right? And it rewrites it, right?
Rewrites it how?
It just replaces it, right? So, like, how I had to go, how I wanted to remove, like how we said we wanted to get rid of list item, right? Or let's say we wanted to add some more list items to that unordered list, right? All we had to do is take, if you got UL node, we click UL node, right? Which gave us so we did our same var UL node gets document elements by tagging UL. Well, all right, so we have our UL node. Then all we have to do is say UL node.inner HTML equals and write out the new HTML that we want that UL node to have. And we can put in our new list items. We can arbitrarily, we just literally just write the HTML that we want to replace, and it will replace it. Right? So nothing about adding a child, attaching appending a child, appending a sibling, removing old nodes, nothing like that. You just type in the new HTML that you want, and boom, it writes in the new in HTML. Okay? So a user agent then does the browser does the rest. So in HTML, it's faster than normal DOM manipulation. The normal DOM method, where we were doing all that, when we just did this remove and all that sort of stuff, in HTML is fast because the parser is always faster than the DOM engine, right? Because it's the HTML that's doing the work, right? So when you want to do complicated changes, when you want to create like whole new divs and sections and all that sort of stuff, use in HTML. For simple changes, like adding a node, appending a child, and all that sort of stuff, it doesn't matter. But inner HTML is still faster, but it doesn't necessarily matter. All right, so here's the cheat sheet that I provided for you guys, which you guys would have read and studied and now know by heart, because this was the last 2 weeks and y'all missed mobile web programming last week and you want to do all the work and that sort of stuff. So you couldn't resist that you were looking through the slides. So all this is all hat.
You right.
I feel you. Okay? Right? And again, the get attributes. So everything is there as a little table that you could read and use. And you will be questioned on this. I mean, these are nice little multiple choice questions, things that you can't resist it. You got to know what they are and how they work and that sort of thing. I would advise, do not spend your time not trying to memorize them. That's a waste of time. Spend time doing something with them. Get a little sample exercise and run them and that sort of stuff to see how they work. Right? My battery could be running low. I thought I had this thing changed. These plugs don't work. Give me a second before the thing dies on me. There we go. Right. JavaScript event handling. Right? So, we'll just spend the last, well, let's see how much, we'll go. Okay? Now, in terms of event handling, remember we talked about global events and that sort of stuff? Certain things that are available for every element. You've got drag, dropping, you've got clicking, mouse over, and all that sort of stuff. Right? So, because it's for user interface and for responsive, it's part of responsive web design. JavaScript by design is what we call event driven.
I thought we've been doing document object model.
Yeah, the document object model handles events. It allows you to actually, it's event driven programming as it.
Oh.
When an event, a user event is triggered, the model is able to respond to it.
Oh, I thought these were two different models.
No, it's the same model, right? But it allows you to navigate and manipulate the data structure. It also allows you to handle and respond to events, right? So a lot of stuff is actually built into that. That's a fairly complicated thing, right? So, as you can see, an event is a notification generated by the web browser in response to a user or browser action, right? Okay, so you have different type of events, moving over hyperlinks, clicking on hyperlinks, right? Images, whatever. Okay, so clicking submit buttons, whatever you have, whatever the user does on the browser, it's an event that the document object model handles. Okay. Now, in terms of event-driven models, the first one was simple JavaScript. Wasn't documented. This is DOM0. It was sort of codified as part of HTML4. But like I said, it's called DOM level 0 because it wasn't anything official in terms of the standard. Had limited features for mouse clicking and that sort of thing, right? And simplicity made it portable, so all browsers adapted it. Okay. DOM level 2, notice it went from DOM level 0, there's no DOM level 1, went to DOM level 2. All browsers except Internet Explorer support that, right? Why not Internet Explorer? Well, you don't worry about Internet Explorer, no one really cares about it anymore. Right? But in terms of event-driven models, when you guys were yet babes and not worrying about stuff and thinking about going to China and stuff, Internet Explorer 4 and Internet Explorer 5 created their own. Microsoft created their own event-driven model, which was part of ActionScript, right? So they participated in the creation of DOM level 2 model, but they didn't actually use it. They used their proprietary model. Okay. Now, event types in the original model is what you call, well, events are abstractions that are available that are sent via the web browser to the DOM, right? So JavaScript, you can't code to manipulate the event directly. So you can't use JavaScript to actually manipulate the event. So what it is JavaScript sees event types, right? So it's almost like an event handler that gets called when in response to a user, right? So it can't, like, JavaScript can't take the event. JavaScript doesn't see the event because JavaScript isn't running on your machine. It's running as an interpreter in your browser. In order for it to actually get the event object, right, it would actually have to be running as part of your operating system or running as an application under your operating system so it can actually get the event object.
That's not the case.
That's not the case. Because JavaScript, that's why JavaScript can't access anything on your machine because it's not running in your machine. It's running in the sandbox inside your browser, right? And so it can't get the event. But so when the browser triggers an event or recognizes an event, it's basically calling an event handler. It's not calling, and that's so. It's basically see it as like stubs, right? The user clicks the mouse, right? The browser recognizes the mouse click and it calls the mouse click event handler. And then JavaScript would then write code to that event handler to actually respond to the mouse click. Okay? So remember, your browser is a native OS app, so your browser actually can see the event, right? But it can't pass it on to JavaScript, so it has to notify event handler. So dealing with different event types, you got to use the attributes of HTML elements to allow you to do that. And that's where the attributes come in. And this is where it gets a bit hairy. Okay? Because what HTML did at DOM level, what DOM, the document model for event type handling, did is pass event handlers as attributes to HTML objects. When we talk about global events, right? Those attributes are basically event handler names, right? So what happens is when you then, when certain events happen, you actually got code for those things. So you have device-dependent events. That's things like for mouse and the keyboard and that sort of thing. You have device-independent events, which when a form is clicked for submitting or when something changes, it doesn't have to do with the device. Whether it's a mouse, whether it's a keyboard, whatever it is, this is something that occurs, right? So when you have raw input events, that's generated when the user moves or clicks a mouse or presses a key on the keyboard, that sort of thing. Mouse, you have the key press up, key press down, that sort of stuff. Okay? Semantic events are ones that are more complex. I mean, that's like, the whole form submission process. These things have larger side effects than just the lower level events. So whereas the mouse click is, you're just clicking the mouse, click, 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 and almost the simple events. Complex semantic events consist of multiple events that go together to form some overall event.
So, sir, a regular simple event would just be me clicking a mouse, but nothing is necessarily happening in the browser.
Well, yeah, may or may not happen, but form submission
Or like, but if I were to say like enter a password,
So me clicking a random blank space that does nothing.
Well, it doesn't do anything because there's no event handler that's created to respond to it.
But I registered.
Yeah, the browser, yes, is being sent, but it's not being responded to.
Oh.
so would a semantic event be like me logging into?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, because it's higher level event, right? Form submission, but yeah, semantic event. That because you logging in is again that's on the application side. In terms of JavaScript and the DOM side, it's the process that the DOM has to go through to get the form submission done. So passing the data on to the gathering the data, passing it, and that sort of stuff is on the back end, right? Independent of the application. Right? So these are some of the tables with the event handlers, right? Keep it. There are lots of them, and you just gotta go to W3 schools and you'll see them. That's a very short list. Remember, we talked about global, earlier I talked about global events, right? And you saw them, you have drag and drop and all that sort of stuff now. This doesn't include much of that. This is just simple stuff from DOM level 0, right? On load, on key press, on key up, on blur, that sort of thing. HTML5 and has a lot more of them defined, right? Now, here's what you got to understand, right? Event handler is a JavaScript function or similar code that performs actions in response to an event that occurs on an element of interest, right? So, as you went back here and you see these guys, right? Remember what I said, event handler is an attribute on an HTML element, right? So as you guys click away in your browsers, if there's no response to that sort of stuff, it's simply because no event handler has been written. So view these things as attributes. These attributes are essentially have no value.
So wait, so sir, you have you have the on-click handler, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I click, let's say I click on an empty space in my browser.
Mm-hmm.
So would that on-click handler try and determine, well, there are no functions here.
Right, there's no function here. The
Therefore-
browser, well, yeah, there's nothing defined for it. I mean, the implementation, on the implementation side, how the browser will actually do it, would a browser generate, I guess the browser, in event-driven programming, all your interactions generate messages, right? It's just how you get stimuli as a human. You receive a stimuli all the time, but things are just ignored and they aren't processed. Right, so your browser, all those clicks that you're doing, those are generated messages, but they go nowhere because the part of the document that you're clicking has no event handler defined for it, right? So, if you have body, if you upload it, if you're viewing a page and body has an on-click event handler defined for it, anytime you click it, it will run a function, well then, it will do that, okay? So, and that's why I'm showing you this because these, in terms of what they are, well, that's really slow. Yes. Oh, that's because y'all watching movies.
What? No? I'm getting notes.
You're getting.
Not getting notes. Not getting notes.
Watching
Anyway.
movies?
It's too early?
Yeah.
All right, don't matter.
Sure.
Huh?
Tony, you can take that.
No.
Right. Okay. So in terms of so when I say these are attributes, I keep saying this, but y'all don't realize the importance of it until I show you the slides, and then you're gonna go, what is that? Right. Okay. So this is the part. See that line, JavaScript event handlers, typically written as strings of JavaScript code that are used as the values of certain HTML elements, such as on-click. This is the key to the original event model, but you gotta understand the details to understand. So, what does this say? It says that if I created an element, say I have an element called button, right? So I go angle bracket button on click equals, then I open my double quotes. Inside there, I will write JavaScript code.
Right, you write.
You'll do like alert or whatever. You do something, right? You write JavaScript code in there. What you've basically done is assign a value to an attribute as you've done typically in HTML. True? because your attribute is onClick, as we were saying, and its value is a string. People follow me so far?
Is the value a string, or is the value the output that the Java code gives you?
The value is not the output of the JavaScript code. The value is the JavaScript code. That brings us to the next slide. Right? So execute JavaScript code when the user clicks a button. You specify that the code has a value of onClick attribute, right? And you see here, we have a button, input type button. The value is press, and then you see we have the attribute onClick. And inside that onClick, you see the value of the attribute is an alert window, right?
But is it an alert window, or is it just say alert?
Alert. The alert function generates a little pop-up inside.
Oh.
Right? So it will pop up a random pop-up dialog window that says thanks, and you click OK. Right?
Alerts you.
Yeah. You see here, you can do multiple statements separated by a semicolon because it's JavaScript. I remember statement separation is done during JavaScript. So you can see here in the second example, if the window.name number clicks, right? You just keep track of the clicks. If it's first click, you could change the value of the click and all that stuff. So you basically can see that you can run JavaScript programs there as an attribute value.
So why were you talking about how it's a string?
It is a string because it is. This is a string.
But sir, when I click the button, it's not as though it's going to have the actual code itself.
No.
Right.
Which carries us to the next thing. Right. This is what you gotta understand. Even though it is a string, right? It's a string that's then interpreted as JavaScript code.
Oh.
Right. So now this is important. When you deal with event handlers as attributes, HTML is case insensitive. That is, doesn't care about case. However, JavaScript is case sensitive, right? So when you're defining on click and on load and on multi, especially with HTML5, remember these things are the on click are event handlers in JavaScript, which is case sensitive, which means you have to have them as lowercase because that's how they're defined.
So it's like C.
Yes, it's like C, right? So if you do camel case or anything like that, right? HTML5 give you an error because it all has to be lowercase, even though they're inside the JavaScript they're different. Anyway, so now here's where we get to the fun part before I'll stop because it's been made fair progress. Each HTML element in the document has a document element in the tree. All right, because remember we talked about the HTML document is a data structure, a tree-like data structure that allows you to do all sorts of fancy stuff, more than you can do with just HTML language that you did inside the browser, right? You can also get attributes. Remember we could do this using the DOM, we could get HTML attributes, right? Remember we have the get attribute method that we talked about, right? We have all these wonderful things. It means, right, that you can access an event handler as a property, just like how we did that image.source, and we changed the image from old image to dynamic logo.gif. We did that, show you that example, right? We could do the same thing, and we could actually, on the fly, create JavaScript code for attributes and for elements. So we can literally write event handlers as the program is running and change the behavior of the HTML as it runs.
So it's not really called dynamic.
Well, it's dynamic, yeah, and then some, right? So look at this part. The last bullet point. The value of an HTML event handler attribute is a string of JavaScript code, but event handler properties are functions. Now, this is a key differentiator where Zachary sort of stumbled on when he was asking. When we click the button, we don't get the string. We get a function. We get functionality, and that is a key thing here you got to understand. When you're talking about a property of an event handler, you're talking about JavaScript code, even though it's written as a string. That's all you need to do. Stop it right there, and that's the easiest way to think. So, right? So you see, when we look at this example now, the form, you have yourself event handlers as properties. You have input name B1, which is a button, and it has a value of press me. Then, what you do here, you see inside here, so we have our HTML, which is the first 3 lines, right? And then the next set of code, this is outside of HTML, this is our JavaScript, right? Or JavaScript stuff, right? We then define ourselves a function, because that's basically what we're doing here in this line. The document.f1.b1.onClick, notice onClick right there is an event handler, which is also an attribute. But what we're doing is onClick equals function, and you see function has no name. That's called an anonymous function. And that's essentially what you're doing. You're actually creating an anonymous function when we talked about a previous example. Now you see the functionality is the same. It says alert thanks, right? So the way this is written here is equivalent to what we did when we just said onClick equals open double quotes alert thanks. Alert bracket thanks. We created what we call an anonymous function, right, on the property called onClick that belongs to a button.
So, sir, that function only occurs for that button.
For that button, because you see how it's defined. It's defined on the f1.b1.onClick. So it's defined for the f1b1 object.
Oh, okay. So even if I have a function name, right?
Hang on, I got somewhere here.
Oh,
yeah.
After alert, you always have to put the semicolon.
You don't have to put a semicolon in that case. Remember JavaScript, the new line return acts as a statement terminator as well.
Oh, okay.
Don't even have multiple statements, but you can do it there. Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
So my thing was, we have an anonymous function, right?
Yeah.
So let's say we gave function name alert. So function alert.
That's a different.
Show boy. Function show.
Or if you have functions there, function show alert, whatever.
Yeah, show alert. Function show alert, and it's that.
Yeah.
Right? I still not be able to call function show alert later down in the code, since we said it's belongs.
You would be able to.
I would?
Yeah.
I thought you just said it belongs to the
No, I'm saying this function, just because they have functions, if you have, right, this anonymous function only belongs to that, so you won't be able to call that, right? Because that's a, right. But if you have function show alert, right, you've basically created a variable on click. It now has a variable that's a function.
Okay.
And this is something I don't want to get into because JavaScript treats functions as first-class objects. So you could assign variables, you can assign functions to variables, and then execute, and then run those variables, and that variable will run the function. Right? This is a bit more information. You want that right now?
Just belongs to the
yeah. Right. So this one, right? When I was thinking more of it to say that, yeah, this function now doesn't automatically go on any button that you create, and there will actually not have the alert button popping up when you click on it. It's just that one B1 button. That's how to say it. Right? And then you see now we've created we've now created a named function called plead or plead. Should be plead, but anyway, right? And you see on the same button, right? We've now added a value. You see how we have the plus equals. We've now added the string please, right, to the value. So it would go from press me to press me please.
This button begging for attention.
Yes, it's a needy button. Anyway.
So you said the plus equals.
The plus equals means take the current string and add a new.
Oh, and add.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So now when and you see how we created on the last line, we've now created another event handler called almost over. Notice now we've created the variable. It's a variable that's a function. It's a value that's a function.
Oh, right, yeah.
You see that? The first one.
Sir, this code is when you hover the mouse over the button, then please would come up.
It would go from press me to press me please.
Oh, when you hover the mouse over, it will say press me, please. Okay.
Yeah. Right. See? And so now look look at how you can actually, and this is what I'm talking about in terms of functions as first class object, if that's the right term. Right. So we've now assigned the function plate to the mouse over event handler. So that anytime that event handler is run or triggered by mousing over it, it will run the function itself. Right?
It run the function.
Plead, right? Plead.
Yeah.
So event handlers as properties, it reduces the mix of HTML and JavaScript because as you see, using event handlers as properties here in this example, we haven't. There is no HTML.
Any HTML.
Right. Right. We just created the HTML, and then we created JavaScript and modified the properties by assigning them that way, as opposed to saying on click and then putting on a long bit of code and that sort of stuff. It makes the code cleaner, makes it more maintainable. It makes the event handler functions more. I always forget to add that thing. Anyway, more. Let's say it's more maintainable. I'll remove that for the point, right? And you can change the properties at any time. So even so you can use JavaScript code and even change those properties and change the attributes. So you can actually change, like I said, as the program is running, you can actually change the functionality and the behavior of the program as it's running. Okay, by changing the properties. So there's a lot of flexibility. Now the disadvantage of it is that the problem that you'll see here quickly is that the handler is is separated from the actual element to which it belongs, right? All right, let me see. Let me show you clearly. It separates the handler from the element to which it belongs, so you can interact with a document element before the document is fully loaded, and the event handler for the element may not be available, right? Because here, as you can see, we have the form with a button, right? The button is clickable on its own, but it's possible that the JavaScript that's associated with it, the event handlers associated with it, haven't been loaded yet, right? Because if you write the script, you write JavaScript after it, or you wait for it to load, the page will get rendered. The button is clickable, but the JavaScript code that changes the functionality hasn't finished loading yet.
Oh.
Right? Because it's separated from it. So if you've written the event handler code with the event, with the actual element, when that's loaded, the code will be loaded with it, so the functionality appears with it. But separating it means you may potentially get a delay, but there are ways to deal with that.
But I'd rather have a working delay than crashing.
Yeah. Now, you can invoke event handlers directly, but this does not mean that because you could create an on submit or on click or on mouse over, just because you can invoke them, it doesn't mean that you could now start suddenly simulating user behavior, right? So by calling the on submit button or calling the on submit event handler doesn't mean that the user you would simulate the user clicking the submit button. Similarly, if you call the on mouse over event handler, right, it wouldn't move the mouse on your browser to hover over the element.
No, it's just an event handler.
Exactly.
The user does this.
Right. It's the event handler. So if you invoke it, it would be the user did this. So it wouldn't actually start behaving, simulating user thing. Okay. Right? So you explicitly invoke event handler if you want to augment an event handler that's already existing in HTML code. Fine. Right? As well as expected, you could do return values because functions have return values. Right? Return values are used to indicate the state of an event handler. Okay? So one of the common things you do with return values is to sort of stop an event from occurring or stop the completion of an event from happening, right? A typical example would be if you are submitting data in a form. Say a person is trying to log in, and you want to do login validation. The person enters an incorrectly formatted email address. So the form has email address and password, right? And the person puts in an incorrectly formatted email address that you could check using JavaScript, right? Or simpler still, let's keep this example. This one shows that the person didn't enter any information.
If this element 0 value line.
Right. So this is saying if the first element, if the value of this, the length of this thing is 0, that is, there's nothing in it, right? Then don't submit, because this is the on submit, you see? Right? The on submit attribute has been defined, which is the event handler for submission. So when the person clicks the submit button, right? If the person has entered nothing, return false. Return false terminates the default action of the
Submission.
yes.
Oh, wait, but sorry. So the on submit runs a function after the person has physically hit send.
The submit button, yeah.
So when the on submit function is false, it prevents the thing from going through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So when the person clicks, it runs the on submit function, and when it turns false, it will stop. So it doesn't actually send any data forward. Right? Right, and you can do that for any default action. So if you want the browser to stop performing its default actions, that is when a person clicks on a link, instead of following the link, if the person clicks on it and after you do some validation, they shouldn't be able to go forward, then you return false and the browser will not follow the link. Okay? All right. Where are we now? Okay, this is the last one I'm going to talk about. Should I start even talking about this? Right. Let me see. Let me scoot forward a second. All right. All right, let's talk about this and then we'll stop there. Okay? Now this is a keyword. This keyword, this allows you to actually access the components of an event handler. Is there this in Java? I think this is in Java.
This.
Yeah.
Right. The object itself. Right. It's the same idea. You'll see it also in PHP. So it's a method that allows you to access the object. Because even though we are talking about JavaScript being a prototype language, it still has object-like behaviors, right? It's easy, and you can talk about it in terms of objects as well. So if you define an event handler, it means that you're assigning a function to a property of a document element, which is what we said. A function to a property of a document element. Okay, which is what we saw when we did plead. You saw we did plead and we did almost over equals plead. That's what we're doing when we create an event handler. The almost over property is always there, which is the event handler, right? And it's only when we actually define a function for it that we then actually get behavior when the person actually mouses over something, right? So the event handler is invoked as a method. Here's what you think. This is where we get the fun part. It's invoked as a method of the element on which the event has occurred. So we have a property of an element, right, as assigned a function, which changes that property from a property into an actual method. This behavior becomes a method, right? Because it's not an element inside, it basically becomes a method on the element itself, right? Now, the this keyword is important because it refers to the element, the target element, and that element only. Okay? So again, when we look at button.onClick, and we create this method, so we have some object that we created that has a method itself, and we assign it to the onClick event handler, right? This is equivalent to us creating, again, the anonymous function. See, button.onClick is creating an anonymous function, which is the method of some object, right? Which is what we've seen before, right?
If I say button, but I have to state what the button is.
Yeah, you have to then inside HTML. Right? Now, I don't want to get into the lexical scoping and all this sort of stuff because from here on, we're going to talk about scoping chain and event handler scopes. Right? And after that,
I just see a big piece of code.
right, yeah, so I'll stop there for now because that is a lot of talking that we had.
Oh, wow. That looks really intimidating.
It just is. Y'all look through it, so for next week, next week is that kind of should remind me, class. Next week is our midterm, right? I know not our midterm, our class quiz. I don't do midterm. No, I don't do midterm. Right? It's the first of our 2 class quizzes. I know you guys have been looking forward to this, and we're asking.
Not really.
Yes,
Not
you'll
really?
feel us, sir. You'll feel us.
Yes, you've been asking over and over again when it was. So I know. So I understand. I don't want to disappoint you, and the best thing to do is to do this sooner rather than later. So next Wednesday will be our class quiz. It'll be online, multiple choice. I got to figure out the logistics because I know you guys will be keen to be using study aids during the quiz, which you shouldn't be doing.
What are study?
You call it better known as cheating.
Sir, we do not cheat.
Not at all.
No, sir. None of us have ever stooped to that level of cheating.
Wait, sir.
Yes.
I was gonna ask you if you had topics for this quiz.
Yeah, I'll send them out over the weekend. Just basically go through the slides to what we up to this JavaScript stuff. Yeah. Listen, we did a lot. Okay, sir. So what will be on the right? What will it be on the amount of slides? I'll probably try to give you start revising. Look at the content we did on the slides, right? And as I create that, I'll tell you probably focus on these areas. But start going through
every slide up to now.
Yeah, basically, there's a lot of slides up to now. Start looking at them and get them in your brain and that sort of thing.
And how many questions? You said 10?
It's going
10, 20 multiple choice.
20 multiple choice. No, it can't be 20 multiple choice. It's this is a 2-hour slot, so you're going to have tens of questions. So I'm probably, I don't know. I'll see how many questions I could generate, and I'll let you know by the end of the week. But you're going to have, it's basically going to be, because of the distribution of people and that sort of thing, you're going to have, it's going to be like, you have to do like 70 questions in 70 minutes or something like that, right? Or it's going to be like 45 seconds a question. Yeah, it's going to have to be something like that, right? So to reduce the opportunity for aids, examination aids, to reduce the likelihood of collaboration, right? All that sort of thing. It's going to be run on a very tight, time frame. Everybody follow? So you got to be prepared to actually do your own work, and the ability to send messages on the group chat and ask what answer did you get for number this and number that. And you structure it in such a way that you will end up wasting more time waiting for the answer than actually getting the right answer. Everybody follow me?
Follow.
You
Questions?
said you got one more project.
Yes. I got a lot of work to do. So hopefully this weekend, not hopefully, I got to do all this stuff so this weekend you guys will be able to get your second assignment. I give you a overview of where to study and that sort of thing, or what not to look at. I'll probably tell you what not to look at because we probably.
There's no final exam then.
There's no. Oh, right. And that's another thing. There is no final exam. This is a 100% coursework course, right? So you finish the first assignment. So there are only two. There's the 2 class quizzes and the last assignment. The last assignment has a report with it as well, right? Right. So that's the components. Those are the marked components of this course. Right. So yeah. So you started. Yeah. So you don't. There is no final exam. Dr. Challery is going to should have spoken to the exam section, and they would have removed that from the KFL exam timetable. Right. Okay. He checked the course outline, and the course outline says 100% coursework. So that's my understanding today. Okay.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it was been fun. I hope you enjoyed the non-stop talking for the last however long. I'll see you guys next week when we're going to have our class quiz. It will be online. Now, Jamaican people, make sure that you guys can get on to e-learning. Spend the next few hours making sure that you can get on, please, because it will be administered through the UE e-learning system.
Oh.
Yes.
Sir, don't do that. No, please, don't do that.
Don't do what?
Learning does not like me.
I guess he's getting for someone is like to be at moment.
I can't help you. I don't know what to say. I feel for you.
Enjoy, bro.
Ay, ay, ay.
How much is that's worth?
I can't remember 10%. 10 course, what Mark? No, 10%. 10% of course.
How much is the first project? Like?
Can't remember. All right. So yes, it's going to be on e-learning. I got to see if it's. I can't promise you anything. So let's do e-learning because it'll be more manual work. Set it up somewhere else. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's it.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions, anyone? No, we're all good? Okay, see you guys next week. Bye.
For 1 minute.
Speak before we release the yeah. Should we go to get information on e-learning? Yeah, if you mean for the slides and the course.
Sir,
Yes, you should. Yeah.
um, Alia is going to ask you a question. She's typing it.
Sorry, tell me.
Alia is going to ask you a question. She's typing it.
Oh, okay. All right, where should we go to get information on e-learning? Where should we go to get information on e-learning? You guys aren't on the e-learning KFL?
Sir?
Andrew.
No.
From Andrew to everyone, server should we go get information on e-learning? You're not on e-learning. All right,
Yes, sir. I'm on it.
Oh yeah, they got some people.
Hilton, what's the last name again?
Those are kind of get on.
See one of them.
Tell me your last name again.
I'm on it.
You're on it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, once you're on. Is water behind? Yes, yeah. Type print. That's fine. You guys still submit. All right, so it's Hilton, Andrew Hilton. All right.
Were you in the Kato group chat, Andrew? Oh, okay, now.
All right, so Andrew, you are not on, you're on it now or not? Tell you what, all those people, right? Because they think Andrew is somebody else. Guys, you got to, what you do, tell all those, because the number of you who are not in SWEN who are doing this as an elective, right? Please send me an email. Yeah, send me an email again, right? Because some of you, there are a couple. I had checked with Dr. Challery. He said that everybody who's registered, everybody who's in the course is now registered, but they would not be in Moodle on e-learning because I wouldn't have added them because I have to add them manually. If you're in the course, even as an elective, and you don't have access to e-learning, send me an email today, please. All right? Send me an email, and I will add you. Okay? Yes, I'll have it. I'll change it so that I can't have two separate timelines. But what I'll do is probably change it so that the timeline will be for Mona. It'll be midnight Jamaica time, which will be 1 o'clock by the this time. All right. But while you still send stuff to me by email, guys. For the next assignment, please. Well, we'll solve that, but for the next assignment, make sure you do not send me assignments via email. Why? Because it'll get lost in the email shuffle, right? And when they get lost in the email shuffle, I'm not going to go back through my email trying to find them. So this time around, we'll let it slide. But for the next assignment, make sure A, that you're on e-learning, and B, if you submit the assignment via email, it will not be considered as submitted.
Fair question. If I didn't put, how are we supposed to get to you? If I just want to message you about something.
Yeah, you can do it through the learning thing or send me an email.
But they said email will probably get lost in the email.
No, submitting the things.
Oh.
Right? Because when I see like email submission, I don't look at it.
Yeah.
Right? So just avoid that. I know where they are, and like I said, this time around, I'll try to pay attention, right? But for the last assignment, we'll make sure that everyone is on e-learning. So remember, send me an email, remind me, and then we'll go from there. All right, and for the next assignment, yes, we'll set the deadline will be 1 a.m. probably this time, which should be midnight, Jamaica time. Okay? Remind me so that even if I forget to put it as midnight, just remind me and I will just change the submission time. Okay? All right, is that it? Any more questions?
No, I think
Okay, that's done. Okay, all right, guys. See you next week.
okay, sir.
All right, bye.